This is quiz 16, and we're supposed to find the derivative by implicit differentiation, more particularly dy dx by implicit differentiation. And we know only that x squared plus xy minus y squared equals 4. And of course it's theoretically possible, and in this case it's actually possible, to solve this thing for y, but that would be a big mess and we'd have to use the quadratic formula, and I'm certainly not going to do that. But we can take the derivative of both sides with respect to x, and we get 2x here. Obviously the derivative of x squared with respect to x is 2x. Now when you get to xy, you have to use the product rule because x is the independent variable. It's a simple function, and y is a function of x. We just don't know what it is. So you have to use the product rule. So we get the first times the derivative of the second, and the derivative of y is not just 1. The derivative of y is dy dx, or y prime. So that's the first times the derivative of the second, plus the second, which is y, times the derivative of the first. The derivative of x is 1, because we're taking derivatives with respect to x. Okay, so that's the middle term. And then the derivative of minus y squared will be minus 2y, except that it's the derivative with respect to x. And so y is not x, so the chain rule has something to say. You've got to multiply by the derivative of what's inside y, which is going to be dy dx, or y prime. And that's the derivative of the left. And then on the right, the derivative of 4 is 0. Okay, so we have taken the derivative, and now we can solve for y prime. So y prime is here and here. So anything that doesn't have y prime in it, I'm going to send over to the other side, and anything that does have y prime in it, I will keep there. So, and I'll factor while I'm at it. So it's y prime times x minus 2y. That's going to stay on the left. And then this 2x is going to go to the other side as minus 2x. And this plus y is going to go to the other side as minus y. And so now I can solve for y prime. Y prime equals minus 2x minus 2y divided by x minus 2y. And that's good enough. It's a perfectly good answer. And if you don't like so many minuses like I do, I probably would have changed it into this mentally as I was doing it. 2x plus 2y divided by 2y minus x. Same thing, but no need to go there. Okay, the second problem is you're supposed to find an equation for the tangent line to the graph of y sine of 2x equals x cosine of 2y at the point pi over 2, pi over 4. So we go ahead and take the derivative. Well, we need the derivative to get the slope. Then once we get the slope, we'll have this point, and then we'll be in business for writing an equation for the tangent line. So we need the derivative. So we take the derivative of both sides with respect to x. So the derivative on the left, we use the product rule, so it's the first times the derivative of the second. The derivative of sine of anything is cosine of whatever. But the chain rule says you've got to multiply by the derivative of what's inside, so that gives us a factor of 2. Okay, so that's first times the derivative of the second plus the second, which is sine of 2x, times the derivative of the first. But the derivative of y is not 1, it's y prime, or dy dx, because y is a function of x. So we're taking derivatives not with respect to y, but with respect to x. Okay, on the right we have to use the product rule also. So this is going to give us the first times the derivative of the second. Derivative of cosine is going to be minus the sine of whatever. So we get minus sine of 2y. And then the chain rule says you've got to multiply by the derivative of what's inside. The derivative of 2y is, with respect to x, is 2y prime, 2 dy dx, because y is not the independent variable. Okay, now we could solve for y prime here, and a lot of you did that, but that's not a good idea, not in terms of practical stuff, because your question is not what is y prime, but your question is what is y prime at this point. So you might as well plug in right now, because good things can happen, especially with sines and cosines and pi's. So we'll go ahead and plug in at that point. So y becomes pi over 4, and this becomes cosine of 2 times x, 2 times that, which is just pi, times 2, plus sine of 2 times x, that would be sine of pi, times y prime, which I don't know, equals minus, and x is this pi over 2 business, and then sine of 2 times y, 2 times pi over 4 is pi over 2, and then times 2y prime. Right? I want to double check that, make sure I didn't mess up. Y is pi over 4, x is pi over 2, so that's 2 times that. X is pi over 2, so that's 2 times that. That's y prime. That's x is pi over 2. That's y is pi over 4 times 2 is pi over 2. And that's it. Okay. Now, cosine of pi is negative 1. So this is going to be 2 over 4 is just divided by 2. So we're going to end up with minus pi over 2 plus. Sine of pi is 0. So that goes away entirely. And then on the other side, sine of pi over 2 is 1, so we get minus pi over 2 times sine of pi over 2 was 1 times 2y prime. So if you simplify this, you get minus pi y prime equals minus pi over 2. Divide both sides by negative pi, and you get 1/2 equals y prime, and so the equation of the line is easy. Y minus pi over 4 equals the slope, which we now know is 1/2, times x minus pi over 2, and that's it. And that's it for quiz 16.